Life of a leaf, or leaf life, if you will. When we look at a leaf, and this is a maple leaf, not make believe, but a maple leaf, you sense vitality from the stem. It goes into the midribs and the veins. You understand photosynthesis, as I recall from grade 9, probably high school. And the nurturing of a simple little leaf, that it receives vitality. Vitality from God Almighty through various means. This is the vitality. Welcome to Tanya today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zichron Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We continue in the 7th chapter of Shar Yichud Ve'amunah, of the gate, the pathway to divine unity and faith. And we're explaining about God and his presence in creation, the power of creator within creation. Yesterday, we spoke about how God is all-encompassing of all worlds equally. Just like if I were to encompass, this cup of coffee together with my maple leaf, together with my pen, soul, right? I encompass it over them all in an equal fashion. So we spoke about God and the contraction of the infinite of God, that he is then encompassing everything in creation, the small littlest creature to the galaxies. God encompasses them, not that he removes himself, but he is hidden from the fact that he is encompassing not from outside, but just as the mind encompasses an image, the image of this coffee cup in my mind, the image of this maple leaf in my mind. I close my eyes and I have that image there. It's encompassed in my mind and yet in it. So God encompasses all of creation and he's in it. But there's another form of creation, the way God isn't encompassing creation, but he fills the worlds. He becomes the life force of everything that he encloses. So he becomes the life force of this maple leaf. Uniquely different. Then he becomes the life force of a paper cup with a hot coffee in it. L'chaim, l'chaim v'livracha. And through now a greater contraction on the infinite light of God, greater than the encompassing light of God, this memale kolam, as it's called, the way that God fills the world through a powerful contraction, that it becomes then specific to the thing that is being created, the thing in its limited quantity and quality. And by that contraction of the divine light, gives it its significance and its importance in creation. That a leaf needs to be a leaf, a cup, and me. Right? The example the Alter Rebbe gives is of the sun. It's a body that's finite and limited, being approximately 167 times the size of the globe of the earth. You knew that? And the Rambam writes 170 times, right? Wow. So a whole discussion about it. Present day astronomy will say that the sun is 4 or 5 million times the earth, But as the Rebbe explains, there's different ways you can measure. There's the diameter of the sun, which is only about 110 times of the Earth. So it seems to be that there's different ways that you can measure you measure the Earth. I mean the sun. In any case, the point being is that God creates the sun, even though we look at the sun and we say, hey, the sun is responsible for this leaf and for us too, and for all of the physical world that we all know and love. But the sun itself, its quality, its significance, its light is limited because God is the creator of it by the contraction of the divine light of God that brings it into being, into a finite, limited manner. How so? Because vested in the sun, vested in this leaf, is the divine light and energy of God in a contracted, powerful manner that brings it to a limited thing that it is created, be it the sun or the leaf. No difference, really. They're both limited beings. How do they get their limitation? Not by the light that is all encompassing, because that encompasses the sun and the leaf equally. But the memale kolame, the way God's light is imbued, infused, integrated, becomes a part of, internalized in the created being. So a short class, and what we have is, in conclusion, in this thought, is we have, from yesterday's class to today's class, two different modes of God's presence in creation. We'll see it further breaks down further, but what we have right now, the encompassing and the internalized light of God, both are there at the same time, which is something our mind cannot tolerate. Because either I'm here in the library of Chabad Zichron Kadeshim, right? Or I am elsewhere. Either I am encompassing something, or I'm encompassed by it, or I'm in it. You can't encompass something and be in it at the same time, right? Actually, the only thing that has similar to it is the mind, which you learned in chapter 5 previously. But in the physical creation, either my hand is encompassing this cup, right? Encompasses the cup. So it means it's around it, but not in it. And it's not, or my hand is in it. If my hand's in it, then it's not encompassing. If it's encompassing, it's not in it. Well, God is both at the same time. Any questions?
Yes, I do.
Yes, go ahead, please.
It is said that there are billions and billions of galaxies, stars, planets, but much of that creation is nothing.
Comes from nothing.
It's space,
which
is defined as nothing.
Not really nothing. Space is not nothing.
But it's not that matter. It's nothingness. Is there
Why is that nothingness?
because it's
Do you have to travel through it? Do you have to travel through it?
Yeah, but what do you
So if you travel through it, that means it's something. It's space.
Right. So is that significant to Hashem? That what we call space / nothingness?
It maybe feel like nothingness, but it isn't nothingness. Nothing means no thing. It is a thing called space, right? Even though it feels empty, it feels perhaps meaningless, but it's still something. It's not a no thing. Our minds can't tolerate what it means no thing. because we only exist in the world of something.
Tangible.
Tangible might be abstract tangible, right? In other words, an idea is not a physical thing. It's an intangible thing, but it's still a thing.
Right. But it comes from a tangible being, object. Could space itself, are the ideas in space?
Huh?
Are the ideas in space?
Again, space by definition means it's creation, because creation is defined by time and space. To go through that space will take time, whether you're going the speed of light, whether you're walking the snail pace, whatever it is, it's defined by space and defined by time. So therefore, that in itself, as we started chapter 7 here, actually, is what defines the world, time and space. Right? Creation is defined by time and space. The sun, this leaf, both take up space and are found in a specific time. Right? In a different time, this leaf was different. Like a month ago, this leaf was smaller, right? It was smaller. It grew. So it was different. It took up different space than it does now. Yeah, exactly. As John says, if you look at under a microscopy, you'll see that 90% of it is space. It looks solid, but it's an illusion, right? This looks solid, but under a microscope, right, an atomic microscope, you're going to see more space because of the electrons, right? They just move very quickly, right? So, but right, same as as a table. So it looks like it's completely taking up space, but that's a bit of a trick, an illusion, right? Because really, ultimately, it's no thing that is its source.
I would never forget when you said we have the ability to walk through walls.
I don't know. We have tzaddikim, holy people. Well, I guess scientifically there must be something to that. Why? Because if you're looking under the microscope and here there's more space than there is matter, so that must mean on some level it's possible to go through this.
Yeah, because likewise we are also
right?
space.
And we're also likewise. So, how that plays itself out in practical reality, the righteous know, I don't. But scientifically, you could see that there's that idea could exist. That possibility is there. How practically? Okay, good question. Brett is asking a question. What are the consequences of God being within and encompassing humanity? Okay, excellent question. As we're talking about two different modes of divine energy, divine light of God that is animating, one that's encompassing and one that is from within. So perhaps you could say the following: the fact that I exist, this maple leaf exists, and the sun exists, right, is an encompassing light of God that there's no distinction. Whether it's a sun, whether it's a simple leaf, right? It's all equal of an existence that came from nothing. No difference between the sun and the maple leaf, right? In that respect. It brought into existence. This is an existence, the sun is an existence. all encompassed. It's all encompassed by the same God that brings it into existence. No difference. Where is the difference? Is the way it is incorporated, the way it is enclosed, the way it is integrated, internalized. Well, the way it's internalized in the leaf, the contraction of it is so great that it merely is a simple leaf, right? As opposed to the sun, the contraction on the infinite nature of the encompassing light is not as great. So the product on the end on the other side is something called the sun, the globe of the sun. But that's the distinction in quantity and quality is based on not the encompassing light, because that encompasses everything equal. What's equal? Well, what's equal about this is it takes up space, and the sun takes up space. Okay, it takes a lot more space. But space is space, no difference in inherently, right? And therefore, the encompassing light of God encompasses both the sun and this leaf equally. The integrated light, the internalized light that makes this specifically now not just a piece of energy or matter, right? But it is now specifically the maple leaf versus the sun is because the light of God is contracted much more to create the leaf and less to create the sun, the way it's internalized. So there you have a distinction. Is that clear? Huh? No?
Yeah, but it's not so simple.
Well, I mean, that idea was pretty simple.
Okay.
No?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, simple to me at least.
Exactly. You've studied it a few times.
Joseph has a question. Do you have theories as to why God conceals himself? Well, he conceals himself because if he would reveal himself, we would feel like the ray of light within the sun. And therefore, we wouldn't have freedom of choice to come to learn Tanya. You wouldn't have freedom of choice at all to create a relationship with God. You'd be more than a robot. A robot is programmed. We would be more than programmed. We would be in our source, completely nullified to our source and sensing only that we're part of the divine. And therefore, we would have but no choice. Well, there wouldn't be any choice because we'd be overwhelmed with our source, being part of the divine, being part of God. And there would be no other reality, period. So God hides himself, conceals himself, doesn't remove himself. And that's the key that we're talking about over here. He doesn't remove himself, but hides himself. So I could find him, right? I hope that was clear.
The physics.
Yes. As we said, this is the pure physics of the universe. Ah, thank you. Is there another question here that I missed? Because I don't see it. The 2 question marks before. So I will be able to notice that it's a question. What are your thoughts about the tree of life? There are different opinions of what it was, well, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, different opinions, the tree of life. Ah, yes. All right. Alice has a question. Okay, let me find it. What about the free choice when Mashiach comes? Good question. So the free choice we have now is between light and darkness, good and evil. But there's a choice between good and greater good. There's a choice between that, good and greater good. Did you ever find yourself in a position that you had the possibility to choose between something good and a greater good? I'm sure we all did. Well, you could say that that's messianic, right? You could say that's messianic. What's of this world is between good and evil. Evil being self-directed, good being God-directed. So in God-directed, so actually, as a matter of fact, to connect with the mimer, the discourse that we learned this morning, 7:05 in the mornings, whoever is up, please join us. So we spoke about the different levels of bittul, of self-effacement. It's not one size fit all in the idea of humility, the idea of self-effacement, of making it not about me, but about what God needs from me, even when we're doing good, right? Um, in that, there's different levels. The Alter Rebbe said that in the Beinoni, which is, who we are trying to be, BITs, we are Beinoni in training, that we can have self-mastery of thought, speech, and action. The Alter Rebbe said there's 150 levels, which means that you could be good, but you could be even greater. If good is good, isn't better, better. So in the times of Mashiach, it'll all be good, but then they'll also be better. Well, John, will anti-Semitism be prevalent until Mashiach announces the Sitra is destroyed? Good question. John, you thank you for thinking so highly of me, but it's not the case. I'm not a prophet. I don't know. Will it? It doesn't have to. Could it? Very much so. Very much so. Be more prevalent. And that's based on the idea as we get closer to Mashiach, the divergence between light and dark will become more clear. The distinction between good and evil will be more clear for some, and for others, it'll be, as the envelope is pushed further and further, it will become more convoluted. Those who want to see from God's perspective is what we're learning, to see the creator from his perspective, right? Which means how you're a ray of light within the sun. Now, a ray of light within the sun, actually, it's interesting. Tying in with today's class, we spoke about, the Alter Rebbe said that the size of the sun was approximately 167 times the globe of the earth, right? And as we said, it depends what you're talking about. Um, approximately because it's brought down to 166 and 3/8 the time, right? He rounded it out. Um, right. Astronomy want to say 4 or 5 million times greater than the Earth, right? But the question is, you know, we're speaking about the diameter of the sun as opposed to the layers of the sun, which will be all of the gases that it emits, right? So where do you call the sun stopping, right? Meaning that even an array of light within the sun, there's going to be different dimensions to it, right? There'll be different components to it. There'll be the way it's in the maybe the 167 3/8 part, and then there's the how it'll be within the 4 million part, right? It'll be it's still within the sun's globe, but a different dimension of what it means to be part of the divine, right? Metaphorically, I'm using this for. So the same thing as comes in the times of Mashiach will be all incorporated in the divine. Divine presence of God will be to the naked eye very clear and obvious. But even in that, there'll be dimensions of what that means in our lives personally, compared to one time period to another time, or um, and even compared to other people. We won't all be uniform, just incorporated with the light of God, right? We won't be all encompassed equally. The sun, the cup, and this leaf incorporated by the encompassing light of God, because there will be the internalized light of God are both a reality at the same time. So both will be, as they are now, they will be revealed in some manner. Will be revealed, and in that revelation, there can be gradations of it, levels of it. No, won't be negated. Right. All right. Good for bringing over here today. So the choice will be between good and greater good, between being a light within the gases, the gassy part of the sun that's on the exterior and the periphery, or being more a light that's, further in, by metaphorically speaking. Amazing. Hmm.
The sun doesn't have a form actually per se. There's no matter. I mean,
It
within the
is
sun,
matter.
it's always constantly changing the whole sun. It's not like
Right.
the Earth that has a core and everything
Right.
else. The sun is.
Yeah. Yes, totally. All right, folks. Amazing. Rambam coming up. I am Rabbi Ronnie Fine coming to you from Chabad Zich in Kadesh in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure